Okay, so here we are, ready to start, and it's kind of good gathering storm. It's kind of good that, you know, I'm actually going to get going. It was very easy to drag my feet when I'm not videoing it. So where am I? Well, I got to find the sequence of play. I've already set up, you know, all the counters where they belong. There's a lot of stuff that starts on the map in terms of diplomatic relationships, etc. Spain, I rolled the dice, ended up with the 3 steps towards civil war. And let me make, nobody starts with any money. Everybody starts on the 0 table, except somehow the Russians start at -1 support for some reason we found in the rules earlier, but I can't remember what it is. Oh, the low. Okay. So there should be a low cohesion counter here somewhere. You don't see anything that handles that. I got these guys. I don't remember what these guys are. I know I saw them before. They're in here. I'm just not quite sure what they're for. There they are. Decreases in resistance. Oh, okay. So, if you have access trade agreements, and I assume, and or other trade agreements, you can increase or decrease the resistance for adjacent territories by marking them this way. That's kind of interesting. And you know, like I said, there's these counters that, you know, serve some purpose as reminders or whatever, but they're not well documented in the game. But what I'm looking for is, yeah, I see nothing that seems to deal with the cohesion level. I don't want to use a random event for this. I could use one of these flags. Those are kind of generic. Alright, I don't remember what these are for. What did they say? Generic support increase or decrease. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. There's supposed to be a support decrease because I'm at low cohesion. I don't have any chits for that. Almost everything in the game has chits for it. So I'll put that here. Now what's weird is if I get positive ones, I got no idea how that's all supposed to be represented. So maybe we'll just use the central marker as the value. We got to lower the cohesion down to 0. I pulled a purge out of here. And as I said, we're pretty much ready to go. Sequence of play is only here in the rulebook. They made a nice graphic for it, which would be really cool if it was on a player aid. I got a bobcat in my backyard. Now, it would be nice if it was on the map instead of maybe quite this humongous amount of space taken up for the time track. There's a lot of space taken up here too. That doesn't seem like it really needed to be taken up in that degree. Sequence of play would definitely be useful. At least people would understand what it was for. Some of this other stuff, like these, are a little hard to see and really get an idea. Why did they bother putting that? Why is it subdivided? You know, what does it matter? Because there's no text or anything to help direct you to any possible effect, and I can't think of one. But the sequence of play is the time record track being so huge is an odd artifact. Third Reich didn't have it. I think we looked at Advanced Third Reich Rising Sun, and it doesn't have it. So this is a World at War artifact that came into play. And like I said, it's kind of useful having bigger boxes. You can throw things in it that are going to come forward in later turns. There's a fair amount of that here. There's you know, military counters when they get built essentially before they go into the reserve box. They show up in there. That's a way of symbolizing them. Of course, there's no rules to tell you that you should do that, but there is the rule that they have a delay, and I don't know how else you'd mark that. So it is kind of useful to have the larger boxes, but I don't know that they need to be quite this large, you know? Counters just aren't all that big. But anyway. You can always photocopy this, I guess. I end up just paging through the rule book. Eventually I'll get used to it. Yeah, it's not a very big sequence of play. It looks like it has a lot of steps, but really it's only a few. So the first thing we get is our random event for the turn. And this is the public random event. We're going to have an economic trend of +2, which we mark like that. Now that's going to have some effects, including +2 income on Germany and Britain, and +1 on France and Italy. Jet intake problem solved. Double value of current investment in jet research. Well, nobody's got any current investment in anything, up to a maximum of 3 steps. This would be useful if you already had points assigned to that. Boom, you'd shoot ahead. What's strange is that shooting ahead would mean, let's say Germany had it, Germany's advanced research points would have to be directed to other things. Hey, we've made a lot of ground on this. But that's okay. Things are drawn one at a time for each player. Let's look at these and see what they're going to be. Germany, Belgian opposition party leader visits Berlin. I'm going to get some Belgian diplomacy added in there for free. And that's a secret card. Italy. And by the way, you have the order of play on these cards. Italo-Croatian Catholic Seminary. So I'm going to get some Yugoslavian alliance going on. Britain. Imperial tariff agreements, British national income +2. Okay, so that goes face up because it's white instead of gray. Most of these are gray. And now I need to find some kind of British marker to put a +2 down. These seem reasonable, and I'll just put that there. That means I'm going to have a higher income, that's all. And again, you're not told what counters to use for these things. You could perhaps use these white counters. I set them up this time there. Oops, I didn't set up the 0, because those will change. France, conscription extended. Activate 1 unit, no cost. All right, we're not sure what activate is. Yeah, activate's going to be moved from reserve up to active units. We have to do this, and we may not want to because it means we're going to be paying more maintenance. But it also means that I believe we get something out of it. God knows what. I mean, I really don't. Having more military units, I couldn't really think of what that did. Did it affect support or something? I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a good grasp on that. There doesn't seem to be, there's nothing to help remind me of that. I think they show up over here. That's what's happening. So if we activate the air unit, we'll get a bonus over here on the air balance of power. If we activate a ground unit, we'll get a marker here. These look like research markers, and they get mixed in with the research markers, but they're not. They're the military units, and that's what confused me. And there's a lot in the game where, you know, maybe you can figure it out after a few moments, and eventually it'll come to you as a regular thing. Albanian communists survive Moscow training course. We get some diplomatic bonus in Albania. And the red indicates that it's going to be a Russian diplomatic bonus. And again, that's hidden. So we've got a lot of diplomacy going on behind the scenes that the players don't have any control over, as you can see. Okay, so now officially we'd reveal the public event at this point. We have to draw a Russian purge card. We didn't do that. Actually, we'd do it after this. So I'm going to just roll a die because I'm not going to shuffle 3 cards. And the Great Purge isn't in here. We get a military purge. 1 military unit is purged. Okay, well, the first thing we do is we mark this on this weird track. And now we got to look up military purges because I have not done one of them. I think a unit is just destroyed, but it may be deactivated. Russia must purge the type of unit with the most active counters. Okay, so it moves one from active to reserve. In the event of a tie, first armor, air, and then infantry are taken. And they're not going to take any. Okay. So this is going to cause us a problem. So I believe the armor has to go first, because all of these are the Manchurian garrison. I don't pay them. And this goes up to my reserve units. Woohoo! But for this to work, actually what I do is I remove this, but this here, I'm going to slide this down. Because basically my units are marked twice. I've got my units here. Okay, these are... I have to remove an armor is the problem. My units are marked here, active and reserve, and then I've got my garrison requirements tracked in a separate place. But it should be the same number of units. Well, this should be 9, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And they're the same units there. That has an effect, though. That has a support decrease of some sort or another. And because I have to meet my garrison. So if my garrison's less, my support level is reduced by -1 for 1 missing counter, -2 for 3 missing counters. I don't think I have a garrison marker. I do have these, but I don't want to use that. So I lose another point of support. So I'm now down to -2 support. Now supposedly that actually affects the number of tile points I can carry over from turn to turn. I don't know on what basis that is. I saw a reference to that, but I didn't actually look up the rule because I never had a negative support in the last game because I didn't find the little rule that was there, and my cheat sheet that gives setup doesn't specify. It only specifies the German setup and says everybody else is the same. You know? Now, that's not the designer's fault. That's simply, you know, players trying to extract the information that should have been present in the game design. So it's the designer's fault only in that the designer didn't bother to give a setup to the game. All right, so that's our purge. The next thing we're going to go to is income. I need a breather. I got to get to work very shortly, but I want to take care of the income. This can be done simultaneously when you're playing with other people. So let's just run through this. I've got 10 points in civilian factories. I've got 5 different units. There's nothing that's modifying it. I have to check my card because maybe it has a secret bonus. By the way, these cards, I picked this one up pretty easily, but sometimes I'm having real trouble picking them up off the table. Otherwise, they're great cards. They're very flexible, seem fairly sturdy. GMT's really gotten good at the card side of things recently. Okay, so I've got $10 base. I've got, let me make sure that I'm catching everything. $10 base. No support, no trade packs. The climate gives me +2, so I'm up to $12. And then normally I have $5 of maintenance, but I reduced that down to only 2. These don't quite match up right, but there's no way to do that. So I was at 12, so I'm back down to 10. So I get to pick $10 of these things. Now, since I'm only allowed 3 of these, I'll grab 3 of them, because maybe there's some kind of restricted resource. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'll get a $3 one of these. Now, in addition to all that, I get a bonus chit out of the cup, which is going to be a 1, 2, or 3. They're equally distributed, so I got kind of screwed. And we do this with every country. Let's see what the totals are. It's not really worth viewing this mechanical action going on. I'll jump in with Russia though. Oh no, actually, Russia's maintenance costs have gone down. Well, Russia's got a problem. Let's do Russia's first, even though it's not in my normal turn order. So Russia's got some support level problems. So their first thing is their income from factories is 10. Active units, well, let's not do that. Support level drops me 2, so I'm down to 8. Trade pacts, none. Additional tile draws, we'll get that. I hate that that's there because that's not really part of the income. So this is what's weird. In your income calculation, the additional tile draw is in there. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out how many tiles I get to buy, right? I mean, it should be noted, but it shouldn't just be embedded in the middle of it, I don't think. Random effects. Okay, so here I'm having that problem. What I have to do, you can see I've already damaged cards trying to pick them up off the table. If I've got a stack, it's easy. And in some locations, I don't know why. Okay, so this is not going to help me. So I was at 10 support level, drops me to 8. Economic climate doesn't affect me. 8. No random events. Maintenance costs, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm down to 4. Wow. That looks like that's my national income. I'll grab 2 1s and a 2. And then, more important for me than anyone else, I grab one of these. I'll do the rest of them, and I'll be back later. Now, we're in the economic phase, and there's basically 3 segments to this: industrial, research, and construction. Theoretically, you're doing them all at the same time, kind of secretly, and then you reveal all the results at the end. I'm going to do them in steps because you could also be doing it that way as long as it's all being done secretly behind the scenes, and I can process them better that way. So Germany has a lot of money. Maybe they want to put another civilian factory in play, and in fact they ought to have these markers here. I haven't done this with other people either. 5th civilian factory, I can put it here. The French, did they get one? I don't think so. Oh, I've already got it established there, and I've got the Italian one in place. Okay, so for 10 bucks, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is a big expenditure. I throw that money in. I'm going to move one of these factories up here. That's going to give me more income. It gives me this additional activity chit for research that I can buy. And it seems like a good idea to buy. My standing is to industrialize. Also clears up a space on the idle factories track where I can add the Rhineland factory, which I believe comes in idle. Yeah, it says idle on it. And these guys come in as military factories already when you get them. That kind of money is not in Italy's hands. England looks like they have it, even with the good economic climate. Now, did economic climate affect this? Let me see. Cost of converting civilian factories is always just 10. It can be increased or decreased by random events. Okay. So we don't have that. I'm flying a bobcat back and forth down in my parking lot. I believe the same 6, 9, 10 justification goes for the Brits building the factories. We'll see what the other options are. Basically, the other options come down to building these chits, which allow you to build units. Seems a little early to build units. Or to make diplomatic actions. And Britain especially doesn't have a lot of diplomacy that they terribly want to do. just in terms of they don't have anything established that they could turn into a source of income. So I too am going to take an idle factory, bump it up here, increase my production next turn, and I also get that extra chit, which really isn't that important at this stage in the game from what I've seen. I got to keep peeking at my random events. This was... Okay, this one actually affects this moment, right? Now this is activation of a unit. When do you activate units? Yeah, damned if I know. This would probably be a good time to do it. It's not covered in the sequence of play. And I'm not quite sure where it is covered, to tell you the truth. I don't remember there being... We got building military units. Building military units is... Oh, wait. The unit that was built. Okay, so this is what they're talking about. Not activating, whatever. It's going to cost 2 activity counterpoints, and... Well... We're not sure when this happens, but it's happening with shipbuilding and other construction, so I'm guessing it is going to happen in this stage of the game. Of course, they also had the military maintenance costs in that rule, which don't happen at this stage in the game. There's no real, there's no discipline to these rules, which is okay if they were written in a loose and friendly style. But when they're written in this fully procedural, not even procedural, it's almost a dictionary style, where you have to know how to use the rule to figure out where to find the pieces and to implement them, and to be able to find out how to use the rule, you have to already know how to use the rule, is what it works out to be. Okay, so I'm going to actually use my ability here to activate a unit at no cost. Do I want an air or a land unit? It doesn't really make too much difference. I'm going to activate a land unit, move it up here. That uses, I got it for free, sort of, but it does put me up here. And that's going to change the balance of power. One towards the Allies. That's kind of important because it may mean that Germany can't go into the Rhineland on the first turn, or Italy can't go into Ethiopia safely. No, it's not going to mean that, because you have to be fully mobilized for that, which means all your military factories have been built. Okay, or converted to. So, those are kind of freebies, actually. So this has been used. And what am I doing? I'm not going to be building a factory. It would be a great idea. I got 5, 6, 7. I only have $9. I can't afford the factory. Likewise, Russia can't actually build civilian factories. They can only convert over to the military factories. And I think they're denied that. Maybe not. I'm thinking by the purge, but they don't have the cash for it. Okay, so that's the first of the options gone by. Now we go to the research and construction. Now I'm not going to spend anything on construction. It's too early, in my opinion. Construction means moving things from reserve to active units. Even though we've lost some balance of power here, we don't know that that's happened as the axis yet, so we won't be reacting to it. And essentially, when you move things from reserve to active units, you're paying more for those, unless you have the military factories to cover them, which we do not yet. Okay. Oh, by the way, when these civilian factories stop being civilian factories, you lose the bonus activity markers, which is kind of shitty because, one of your advantages of grabbing them is, hey, I got this extra counter, I can do some extra research or whatever. Well, as you gear more towards the military side, you end up in a position where you really can't keep going with that. That's a lot of money left for Brits. Okay, so we're going to just skip the construction segment unless we have ships. If we have ships, we want to worry about them. Now it's a spring turn. And Russians don't have ships. Nobody's got any ships already being built. I could actually commit some shipbuilding to building some of these older battle cruisers, battleships, whatever. They'll help me in a world at war. They'll add to what I have here on the balance of power chart, but they're just not, they're not going to help win me the battleship race, and they seem like military units, a bit of an expense at this point to lay down a new ship. So I'm going to hold off on that for this turn, but we may see that happening soon enough. Certainly we're going to see the development of the ships that are out there. Okay, so where are we? We're on research. Research is going to be kind of hard to do because I got to worry about this pencil. Hey, what's this? That's a World at War's research rules. Okay. So let's start with the Germans and Italians on research. And in order to do this, I'm going to need a break anyway. So I'll be back in a bit. Actually at work right now, but I've got an installation going on and it's preventing me from doing anything useful. So, research, I'm going to get a certain number of points. For the Axis, I get 2 German, an Italian, an intelligence, and an advanced research point. Well, I don't know. You know, I really have to kind of know, especially in the intelligence, what these things do. So covert operations are done for diplomacy. Espionage is either going to be used in diplomacy or in research categories. Counterintelligence obviously is going to knock out an intelligence. Code breaking is to generate magic or ultra cards in a world at war, but it also affects your balance of power. But for the most part, the point salad that this game provides, you know, as a standalone game, seems so useless. Trying to direct things to get the results you want for a world at war, not so useless, but very abstracted in comparison to, say, what Days of Decision gives. Occupation policies can improve, I believe, the long-term effects when I invade Russia or whatever. It also changes the garrison requirements on Russia. Muslim unrest, that's going to give me additional troops in the Near East, which is useful. Then for the Allies, they have their Anglo-French cooperation. Okay, so for some reason the Russian track goes 10 steps. Most of these are on 6s, I thought, but maybe it depends on the country. So I got to look at my points again and the different options I have and what I want. So 2 German. Now I have extra money and I have this research activity. I'm also allowed to maybe pay for more. I think that one, subject to this, each major power may use 1 activity counter to supplement basic research. Subject to 15.22a. Yeah, okay. So this chit is special. It can only be used for research, and it's the only one that can be used for research. So if I want to increase my research, I want to buy this chit. I think that's a good idea. And I'll put that over there. So it's kind of done hidden at this point. Shit. I'm sweating like a dog. Dogs don't sweat. Okay. Neither do pigs. Wait, big sweat, men perspire, women glow, right? All right. So let's see what I want to do. So I have an extra German point that I wanted to put in. Well, the things that are important to me for the Germans, armor is incredibly important. If I don't get my armor result, shit, I'm out of battery. I'm not going to get the high quality tanks. So I want to boost that all the way to the end. If I get close to the end, I'm able to, try to catch up. But I'd like to get, maybe not to the final level in armor, but I'd like to get to at least this red result, which gets me my 4-6 tanks and my 5-6 tanks available later when I invade Russia. Let me click out. In some ways, this is a very similar process to what you do with a World at War when you start doing the research with that. Is you get some freebie points and you can buy some. You have a little bit more allocation capability. So I've used one on armor. Now, I can use any of my points over here in this first 6 column. It becomes harder once I go out to some of these others. So I kind of probably want to focus on certain research classes so that then I can do catch up with the additional points. But right now I don't have to worry about the point differentials because I'm not above 6 on any of these categories. So I can use any of my points on these. Okay, what else do I like with Germans? I want to do U-boats. U-boats seem like a good idea. I have a third point with the Germans. I'm only allowed to put one in each thing. I'm gonna put that one. Jeez, I don't know. I don't have a lot of things I really want to do. I'll put that one into economic prep. That does something. It gives you more of something in the... well, first of all, it gives you additional counters. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But it gives you more crap in the World at War situation in terms of something or another, and I don't remember what. I know that it looked attractive, and so I'll take that as my third point where I had the extra point for. Now, I've got an Italian. That has to go in an Italian-only thing. I'm going to put that in battleship design because Italians like boats. I have an intelligence point. Who knows, right? I'll put it in espionage. I might be able to get additional research off that. And then I have a German advanced research. That can only be put in jets, rockets, and advanced submarines. I'll put it in advanced submarines. These are not going to pay off before a World at War comes into play. Basically, these are guys, other than, the point salad, right? These are guys that I get... But when I start a World at War, they're not immediate payoffs. I get some bonuses to the research for them, and that's all that I can ever get off of these in Gathering Storm. All right, let me back off, and I'll come back and look at the Allied and Russian sheets. Italy and Germany have to complete their sheet together, right? Same thing with Britain and France. Okay, so the Brits also spent a point that they had from building their civilian factory and allocated points to battleship design, ASW research, and actual production of ASWs. The French required point went into the Maginot, and we went into covert operations. I think that's more the diplomacy type stuff, so we're kind of interested in that. For the Russians, they didn't have a lot of points. They had 2. They don't have any ability to buy additionals yet, ever. And we threw it into armor and espionage. Armor for very much the same reasons as the Germans are throwing it in. I remember economic prep being interesting for the Russians, though. I'm not quite sure why. Again, some of these decisions, obviously the more familiarity with the game, the better you're going to be able to make your decisions and come up with a real strategic plan. But in essence, I'm playing both this and A World at War as an exploratory exercise. So I'm less worried about making brilliant decisions and just trying to maybe do things that don't hurt me too much, you know. So that's kind of my aim there. So that gets us to the end of the economic phase, because I'm not going to do any construction at this point. We check this shipbuilding. Now at this point, everybody reveals what they did. These counters get placed aside, and we move on to the diplomatic phase. And for some reason, my computer, it installed IE11. I had to make changes to put it into enterprise mode for one website, web page on our that our work applies to, and that may be what happened, but it's forced another reinstall of IE11. We're going to see if that just keeps happening. Well, I get more time to play, but I also I'm going to have to spend some time with tech support today, and it'll pretty much be a wasted day for me, just because of them not getting enough information out to us as to how we should go about installing IE11 properly. So again, we're getting kind of an illusion that this is a sequenced game. This particular step we're in here now is the diplomatic phase. This is done simultaneously. So, for example, Germany will look and say, okay, I'm getting a bonus in Belgium. I might be able to I'll be able to probably take the trade agreement away there. I think we have a balance of power advantage, but I'm not sure. We may have a disadvantage there. What I want to look up is whether we can use our military during the diplomacy phase. What is the requirement? Oh no, these placements, okay, so the placements are sequential, but they're partially hidden, and that's what we're going to see. Okay. There's no cost. So to use a German military counter, the Axis have to have a balance of power advantage, which they do now. Ooh, I turned this the wrong way. Where do we have the penalty? Shit. Yeah, we have a penalty against this. Okay, so we have the balance of power against us, so we won't be able to use our military. We have to look under each country to see. So, for example, Italy can place one per turn. It doesn't seem to be any restrictions, but it can only use it in a civil war. French can use theirs only in the Rhineland or Belgium, Luxembourg. Or it can use it to intervene in a Yugoslav civil war, or in turns in which the Allies are supporting the rebels in a Greek civil war. Okay, so, I mean, each country has its own rules for these military counters. I didn't realize how badly constructed this part of the rules really is. Now, obviously, if you had like a player aid card in front of you for each country that stipulated all of the special rules applying to your country, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But it's just embedded in the rule book like this. So let's keep looking. So that's the French. They can kind of use theirs, but only in the Rhineland or Belgium, Luxembourg to push those guys around. The Brits can intervene in a Yugoslav civil war or in a Greek civil war if the Allies are supporting. And here they specify without regard to balance of power or British support level. They didn't bother with Italy or France to specify one way or the other. Maybe there's some statement elsewhere that says that. I haven't seen it. Russia needs garrison levels greater than they are and a positive support level, but not to intervene in a civil war. Okay. So it looks to me like France is the only country that's going to be able to use their military counter. Seems interesting. All right. So Germany has 2 points. We're going to look at what we might want to do. Now, we get a benefit in Belgium, we say, that nobody knows about. And we would kind of like to get a trade pact, say, with Austria. That sounds kind of useful. So I think paying $2 for a 2-point chip makes sense. And then I get my 0-point chip. And I get my my anti-Comintern chip. And this one cannot be put hidden. So I got to put it in the most Russian territory. Well, there is no most Russian territory. So now let's look this up, because none have the most Russian flags. So it has to be a country with no flags as the first option. Bordering country with no flags. Turkey seems like a good option here. Turkey's someone I would like to have as an ally in the big game, and I always like to put points towards that. What about these? Well, I was going to toss 2 points into Austria, and where will I put my 0? I'll put my 0 in Poland, see what that does. Probably nothing, but you know. Okay, that puts us on the Italians, who actually have a pile of money here. Now, as far as I know, there's no limit to how many diplomatic counters I can buy. And I'm allowed to hide what I spend on them, you know. So I select them. Okay, so Italy gets a bonus in Yugoslavia, it looks like. So we're going to get a pip here. What I don't have is the which countries are better to have economic influence in. I know Poland is good, at least in the big game, but I don't think they make that big a difference when you're playing just Gathering Storm. I think the penetration just gives you a counter that gives you some added income. But some of these give you $10, some of them give you 5 in the full game. Damned if I can tell which ones are which. So, we would kind of like to up Hungary, get the extra bucks for that. So we'll put $2 into Hungary. We're going to be in Yugoslavia. Let's put a $2 counter in Yugoslavia. And here we're going to withhold putting our 0 on the board, because we're going to try to fool people. They're going to think we put 1 real counter and 1 fake counter. It may not mean anything, but, you know, that kind of psychological game is a part of this. For Britain, we got no particular advantages. We don't have any diplomatic situation anywhere particularly. So, do we want to spend points on something that, you know, we're not going to gain anything? And I don't really know quite what the, you know, we could get some penetration into Ireland or whatever, but I don't see much point to it. So I'm going to actually pass in terms of paying money. Let France do the work there. But I'll toss this over into Ireland. Maybe fool the Russians. France. France gets their tank. We're going to send that tank into the Rhineland. We already have penetration in most countries. The question is, do we want to go into Poland? You know, are we in danger of putting points in that don't help us? Well, we had this marker. We already activated a unit. Poland's important. So on odd, I'm going to throw $3 into Poland. Yes, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to put a $3 marker back here, and I'll grab... Oh, I don't have a 3-point... Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to put more than one token in a single place. One counter per target. I thought there might be something like that. All right, so instead of 3, let's think. Let's give Poland, well, let's put a maximum in Poland. I think it's worth it. Now, it turns out that because the blank's in there, that's not that big a deal, but that's okay. Now, there are collateral effects of some sort. I don't know if I'm going to manage to look them up for the fact that there are flags in Poland. And those affect Russia. Well, I think one of these support level penalties is from that. I can't recall. Again, there's no real easy place to find that. It might be here in the compendium. There might be something that indicates that. So this is aggressions. There might be like the Poland marker. If Poland allies with Germany, it has an effect. You know, there's kind of a damned if I know. I also don't know quite how the allies get... these come from Axis aggressions. I'm not sure how the allies get their extra markers. I think they're from stopping an Axis aggression, but I'm not positive. Again, you know, it's all a matter of all these specific little rules rather than some generalized thing and then a chart that you can look up the information on. If I'm going to put that into place, I don't know. I'm really not going to affect anyone but Russia. I'll hold off. I'm not going to put any other counters. Russia has a military purge, which I believe means that I can do diplomatic actions. But Russia's limited into where it can do diplomacy at all. Which, again, you know, you got to look up. You're only allowed to play 2. Total. Okay, but I think Russia places all its diplomatic counters. Oh yeah, the Axis. Okay, so actually, what happens is the Axis lays down first a counter, and then they get a response counter afterwards. So what I may want to do is put this Poland into place and hold off on this. And likewise with Italy, I'll put the Hungary into place and then put the Yugoslavia after everyone else is gone. I can never remember that because, again, it's not pulsed nicely. You can't place in Russia unless you have a random event that says it. Russian diplomacy. So I'm allowed to only place in Finland, Poland, Romania, and Turkey. And other countries that have a Russian flag, maybe from an event, aspiring, or in a civil war, are allowed by random event. Once full cohesion occurs, I can then also add to Albania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Greece, Hungary, Sweden, and Yugoslavia. I think I'm not allowed to place in anything outside of those ever. But, and there's probably a limitation on where I can place spy rings. We don't have a lot of big points. I'm not really sure I want to blow money on diplomacy if, you know, all I'm doing is going to be countering someone else's flag. So I think I'll hold off on it unless I have a card here which says something. Okay, I get points in Albania. Am I allowed to play there? I think only if I had a flag there already. So my card's going to decrease Albania, the Italian in Albania, but I'm not going to be allowed to play there. So I'm just going to hold off. And now we actually resolve these. Now, theoretically, the Axis plays their final pieces now. And hey, maybe Germany would be thinking about the Rhineland at this point. I don't know. But too late now. Maybe I'll remember later. So now to resolve each of these, we go. Okay, Turkey's got an anti-Comintern. That counts as a dip point for the Germans. So we get an Axis flag there. We'll put this somewhere. There's no dip space, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. I don't think we have any more uses for tokens, but I want to make sure because there might be some that can be used in the crisis phase. Italy said, or Russia says, ooh, me, and removes this. These can all be done simultaneously, really. Italy and Yugoslavia, 2 plus 1 for this is 3 Italians in Yugoslavia. And now that gets us a trade pact. Now, I don't think the trade pact gives us any support, but maybe I'm wrong. You know, that's how I feel about most of this game. Maybe I'm wrong. Get rid of this. What about the Germans? The Germans had one in Belgium. Nobody's in Belgium. So we take this away, and the French lose their Belgian trade pact. Get set back up over there. Okay. Got more. We have Italians here in Hungary. They had 2. They get 2 more flags. And this is really, you know, kind of the gist of the game is beyond remembering what everything does, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot in this game. You know, it's mainly a matter of remembering what it does, and you can formulate a strategy within that, but I don't see too much there outside of Germany. Germany threw 2 into Austria. That's going to give them a trade pact over there. Let's add it to their income. The Brits had a 0. Germans had a 0. Russians probably wanted to play their 0 just to fool the French in the Rhineland. Get rid of the Germans because we had a tank available to play. And I guess that's it for diplomacy. And that pushes us over to the crisis phase and me to a little break, because the crisis phase is actually where everything in the turn kind of culminates. It's, hey, can the Axis actually do something now? You know, can I incorporate the Rhineland? Can the Italians start their invasion of Ethiopia right on the first turn? And there's a complexity to calculating that out, which is to say you can't just follow the sequence of play. You have to figure out, are the Allies going to be able to just declare war on me on this? Because if they can, you don't want to do it. You don't want to give the Allies a reasonable chance of declaring war. Now, because this is the first aggression for both countries, and it has to be Rhineland and Ethiopia in those cases, the Allies actually can't declare war because they have to be fully mobilized, and they won't be there. So you can make the occupation of the Rhineland and the invasion of Ethiopia in the first turn pretty much guaranteed. So let's just do it, I guess. What the hell? Except that I'd like a pipe. So we go to the, well, let's go to the little chart for this. There actually is one here. Crisis, what crisis? So this is what you follow. They announce an aggression. Now the restrictions in 27.2. Let's see if there are any restrictions. That's probably what we got. Italians cannot do any until they do Ethiopia. Then they can't do in a turn in which they've engaged. Okay. So Italy's going to declare one against Ethiopia, and Germany is going to declare one against the Rhineland. Okay. And to resolve it, we look at the Allied response. Now, the Allies are not going to be allowed to declare war. Oh, maybe I'm lying. Hold on. With an Axis aggression, if they both exceed the threshold, they can both declare war. If only one of them exceeds the threshold, they may declare war if they're provided that its positive result is not fully offset or exceeded by the other major power's negative result. Yeah, I seem to remember there's something that prevents the Allies from screwing. Maybe it's under resolving. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I seem to remember something that prevents the Allies from being able to intervene in the Rhineland or Ethiopia. Now, if that's the case, it's embedded somewhere strange. Crap me. British and French declarations of war are subject to the following restrictions. I don't know. No aggression. Oh, Allied mobilization requirement, but that's under no aggression. So actually we have to worry about calculating the threshold here. So we don't know if Germany and Italy are going in. So for the threshold, we have this kind of vague, these things count towards the threshold with no real definition of it, but it seems to be from the Russian rules on this that there's some kind of statement of, in the Russian one, that you know, if you've got it one in your favor, you can declare war, otherwise you can't. So we're looking at the support levels of the given countries, and right now I'm not seeing anyone with any support level. I thought I had one. I wonder what happened to the Italian support level. I wonder if something weird is going on there. But I should have a little flag there. Okay. So that's the support level. I guess there's none of that. I thought there was one, but I don't remember what would have generated it, so screw that. European Aggression Index. There isn't a change there. Minor countries. The resistance of the minor country is the support is factored in. So we've got 1 point automatic for Ethiopia, and that's just fixed. The Rhineland is 0 plus a draw. And this is important because I don't think we can dare go in. Germany's eastern neighbors. The resistance level of Czechoslovakia and Poland, if I'm going to declare war on the Allies. That's not going to happen. So we're not really worried about that. Germany's not going to declare war on the Allies, so we don't have to worry about that threshold. There are no flags in Russia, but we're not declaring war on Russia. The balance of power. It's going to be changed on a one-to-one basis. So right now we have a balance of power modifier 1 in favor of the Western Allies, which means at this point we're at 2 for Ethiopia, I guess, and 2-4 for the Rhineland. And then support levels, I see no support levels anywhere. Thought we did those already. Yeah, so I don't think I want to chance it because it looks likely that the Allies will be able to respond. So I can't do the occupation of the Rhineland at this point. Now, somewhere or another, maybe under the minor reactions, wherever those are, which I thought were over here, but I'm not finding them. Here we go. The basic defensive strength is going to be modified by flags. So the axis value of the Rhineland will be modified by -1. So we're talking 1 to 3. But again, the axis has nothing. So we end up with, we will be declared war on if we go into there. So we're not going to do that. And there are no flags in Ethiopia, so that's not an issue. There are possible trade pact effects. So for example, Austria would be providing at this point one of these going into Czechoslovakia. But on the other hand, if we wanted to mark this all out how we could, Poland would be providing one of these going into Czechoslovakia. I'm sorry, Czechoslovakia would be providing one of these going into Austria. And likewise, it's providing one going into Poland, which I believe we can also aggress against, given that that's how the war started. So, we've got this, and I don't see a point to keeping these. These counters are, the only reason I'm mentioning them is I think I figured out what they're for, but they look pretty damn useless compared to most of the other counters, some of which maybe I don't know how to use. So yeah, I don't think there's a crisis this phase because the Axis can't take a chance that they're going to end up in a war from that. So, the Allies aren't going to be allowed to declare war against the Axis, against Germany or Italy directly, because they haven't done anything yet. They haven't pissed anyone off. So that looks to me like the end of turn 1. And so we'll put that up as 35 spring. I'm hoping to get something like a year at least in each video, but this first turn I wanted to go into detail. I may actually go into more detail with other turns as well, just because, certainly to zoom in on interesting things. Let's send this one up.